Please. Wa alaikum salam. Now you are growing very rapidly in height, mashallah. Eh? No longer the same tiny little thing. Eh? Have you been eating my medicine as well or no?
Yeah.
Really? Regularly? Or occasionally?
Occasionally.
I will do it more regularly.
Okay.
Inshallah you will benefit more from it. Right?
Heard in one of your programs that we're allowed to eat snakes. Why are we allowed to eat snakes if they eat
Snakes?
rats? Yeah.
Why are we not allowed to?
Why are we allowed to eat snakes? We haven't completed it.
Is that your question? Would you like to eat snakes? Huh? No? Do you like to eat lizards? No? Do you like to eat worms? Insects? So God has left to your free will so many things which are not forbidden because by nature you won't eat them. So everything has not to be specified. If God had prepared a long list of what you should eat and what you should not eat, and if He had covered all the insects and all the worms and all the animals of all sorts, the Holy Quran will become a book of 50, 70 volumes or more, containing only the names of such animals which are to be eaten and which are not to be eaten. So, as specimen, some are picked out, and the rest is left to your own wisdom and taste. But why did you think of eating of snakes at all? What happened?
Yes,
Did you ever feel a craving to eat snake? You see, things which are poisonous, things which are ugly looking, things which are slimy, one naturally doesn't like to eat them. So why should God go on adding to the list of you shouldn't eat that, you shouldn't eat that? Only that is forbidden which has some special moral significance. And the pork and whatever name you call it by, the flesh of pig, is bad for some morals, bad for human morals. That is what we can understand from its special habits. So that is perhaps the reason why pig is picked up, specially picked out of all the animals, to be declared forbidden. And also the beasts are forbidden. The rest is left to your own good taste. Understand? Thank you. What about your kidney? Is it working better now? MashaAllah? Huh? No problems? Alhamdulillah. Yes.
My name is Muzaffar Chaudhry and I'm from New Malden.
What Chaudhry?
Muzaffar.
Yes, Muzaffar Chaudhry, yes.
My question is, what does the Quran say will happen to planet Earth at the end of the world, Day of Judgment?
End of the world?
Yes.
What will happen at the end of the world?
To planet Earth.
The end of the world?
No, I mean, will it's like...
At the end of the world, what would happen would be the end of the world. What else do you want to hear?
Well, I just
It will happen so suddenly that no one living would understand what is happening. If somebody is suddenly killed through a violent accident, people who watch him, they know what may have happened to him, but he will himself never know what had happened to him. Right? So when all of the human beings are suddenly killed and all the life on earth is suddenly brought to a halt, none would know what would happen, what had happened. So why are you interested in knowing that?
I'm just interested.
Huh?
I'm just interested.
Something
in
would
planet
happen.
Earth.
a violent earthquake maybe, a asteroid striking the earth maybe, or some other such phenomenal happening which we cannot foresee but we can visualize anyway with relation to our past experience. You see, for instance, there was a time when there was the age of dinosaurs. You know, the entire world was filled with dinosaurs. They ruled supreme over the earth. Then suddenly they were gone, completely finished. The age was wiped up and their, the period of dinosaur, the age of dinosaur was over and done with. Do you know what happened? The scientists, first of all, were really confounded. They did not know the answer. But some later researches have led them to believe that a huge meteorite of colossal size struck the ocean, maybe Pacific Ocean or whatever the oceans were at that time. It hit the middle of the ocean, and the resultant rise in the debris thrown up, the dirt and the filth and the water and everything else and the fumes, they covered the whole earth from one end to the other. And they covered the whole earth from the sun rays, shielded the earth from the sun rays for a very, very long period, until the climate changed, until the vegetation underneath died, until the dinosaurs had nothing to eat, and they all gradually withered out and were ebbed out of life altogether. And some say this must have caused huge earthquakes, huge upheavals. The mountains may have toppled and the earth may have split from place to place. And this great earthquake and the splitting of earth might have swallowed or crushed or destroyed by the vibration of it, the phenomenon, all forms of life which were big enough to be hit by such volcanic forces. Small insects are not affected at all. Small sized life escapes such havocs. They're not much affected by earthquakes, you know. While humans die, while other animals during the earthquakes, the insects fly easily and perfectly as if nothing was happening around them. So a sort of life was destroyed and the remaining life was continued to remain. That is the suggestion put forward by scientists. So if from looking back at our past, we know that events of this magnitude have been able to wipe out a large form of life from Earth in a very short period of time. If something much bigger than that happens, just one big strike on Earth and everything will tumble down. Like the Holy Quran sometimes presents the image of the mountains flying by and everything, you know, gone mad in a disorderly frenzy. That indicates a huge accident. But after things will settle down, life will take root again. New forms of life would appear afterwards. Right? Thank you. Yes, please.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Kashif Ahmed, and my question is, do you believe in UFOs? And if you do, what are they doing here?
Do you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the evidence.
What?
The evidence, the
So
pictures.
bring the evidence and I'll also believe. You see, it's not a religious question of belief or not to have belief. It's a question of simple evidence, as you have yourself suggested. And to sift an evidence and to verify the reports of the witnesses is an issue which varies from person to person. Some evidence satisfies some people very easily. They are called credulous people, who would believe in anything they hear if they want to believe. Some people are very strict in their scrutiny. They won't accept any claim unless they fully examine, analyze, and testify the evidence presented before them. Not testify, but critically examine the evidence presented before them before they testify to its truth. So you have already accepted it on the basis of some evidence. So far I have not found any definite positive evidence of the truth of the so-called phenomenon of UFOs. Some evidence is presented through television, but I know that television evidence is not at all worthy of acceptance because they have been playing tricks in the name of evidence in so many things. Only they want to present things which excite people, which thrill people, and for the sake of creating thrills, they know how to present these things in a manner as they become normally acceptable. But I have read books from the other side as well. I have read criticism against the claim that UFO, unidentified objects exist by scholars who have made researches. They have their story to tell. So before making up your mind so quickly, you better read both types of books. Don't just depend on the evidence presented through the television stories. Read literature. The books are already written by scholars who have prepared those books painstakingly, collecting material of all sorts. So this is a possibility as far as I am concerned. I don't rule it out. It is possible that something of that nature may have been happening. But what is the significance of UFO? Who is responsible for these? Why UFOs are not recognized by the big governments of the world? Why they do not make search into the phenomenon of UFO themselves and let the whole of the world know of what is happening? The question of UFO is left entirely to the area of fiction. In the scientific literature, you don't find UFO mentioned at all. Why not?
I've read a book and it is.
Pardon?
I've read a book and it is by a high standard author or whatever.
And what does it tell you?
It says that the government
You see, the aliens which get out of the UFOs and get back after sometimes abducting a man or a woman and sometimes depositing him back, do you know that they have been described so differently everywhere? And the nature of their form, their body has never been defined properly.
In the book it has.
Pardon?
Well, in the book it also says
Sometimes they are given some humanoid figures, similar to humans, with some extra features, some antennas jutting out of here and there, and spidery legs and things. All that is fiction. And how can they speak the language, our language? How can they communicate with us? What is the purpose of suddenly appearing and then disappearing very rapidly? What is the material they are collecting? And why do not they respond to any signals which are emitted by scientists of this world who are desperately attempting to establish contact with the aliens elsewhere in the universe? You see, millions of dollars are spent by America alone on such projects whereby constantly, day and night, scientific signals are emitted to the universe, to the entire universe, requesting in so many ways for a response. If there is an intelligent life elsewhere, they say, come on, tell us where you are and what is your form of existence. No response has ever been recorded so far. Who are these UFO people? Where do they live? They come to our earth and leave no message behind. That is also a question which has to be weighed on the other side, put on the other side of the scale before you make a final decision. So for story is good, enjoy it, but to present it as a solid fact of life, I don't agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
मगरिब की नमाज कितने बजे होती है? 8 बजे? हैं? अच्छा, उसके बाद फिर अगला सेशन शुरू हो जाता है? हैं? अच्छा, so you would like me to bring it to a stop now? और ये बच्चे जो दूर दूर से आए हुए हैं, अभी तो ब्रेडफोर्ड ही खत्म नहीं हुआ. Come on, let's continue. उनको डिले कर देंगे थोड़ा सा. Come on, children.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Naveed Shakur and I'm from Cardiff.
From Cardiff.
And
Right.
my question is,
Right.
why, at what age do you have to be able to
Come
fast?
closer to the microphone. Yes?
At what age do you have to be able to fast, and why do people go to Hajj?
Fast and Hajj?
At what age do people have to be to fast?
Oh, well,
So why do we have to do that?
two things. About the other fundamentals of Islamic practices, you have no question to ask? Why do you say prayers? Why do you give zakat and so on? That you have understood.
Yeah.
And why do we have to spend in the cause of Allah? That you have understood.
Yes.
Only what baffles you is the wisdom of going to Hajj and the wisdom of keeping fast. Is that right?
Yes.
But that's not right. You have not understood the significance of any of the 5 fundamentals. I don't know why you're asking about fast. Maybe because only about 2 months ago the month of fasting came and people were, everywhere, Muslim Ahmadis particularly, were keeping rozas and so on and so forth. So that made you interested in this question. Is it right?
Yes.
Huh? And Hajj is about to come when after that we'll have big Eid. Correct?
Yes.
Because I asked this counter question to indicate to the administration here that on the fundamental beliefs and the fundamental practices, Khudamul Ahmadiyya and the management of Atfarul Ahmadiyya, etc., should pay special attention and should not feel safe unless they teach their younger generations at least everything they must know about the fundamentals. You see? When I answered you in a devious way, in a long way, it was not a purpose to waste your time and my time. This is what I want to bring out. most of the Ahmadi boys and maybe most of the Ahmadi girls have not been properly informed as to the significance of our fundamental beliefs and our fundamental practices. Correct?
Yes.
So now, having explained this, I turn to your question. The significance of fasting is a big thing to be congested in a small space of this question and answer. I have spoken during my sermons, during Ramadan, continuously, for years, on this subject, and yet I have not been able to exhaust this subject. So I advise you to have the cassettes of last Ramadan and start listening to them. If you have a video at your home, get a video and watch me and listen to me when I am explaining the significance of Ramadan to the whole world. You are a part of the same world. Why should I say all the things all over again addressing you alone or a small class here when I have already done this, when I have already attempted to explain in every possible detail the significance of Ramadan, and I have tried to express myself in such language as at least the major part of the sermon should be understood by people of all ages. So if you are really interested, then listen to those sermons. Okay? As far as the Hajj is concerned, I have again spoken on the issue of Hajj and its significance. At the time of the sermon of every Eid, during my office of Khalifa for the last 14 years. So if you can't go back to all that period, get a cassette, recorded cassette of my sermon of last Eid and the Eid before. That is the Eid, Badi Eid as we call it. Then inshallah, your query will be answered, and I hope you will find satisfaction in that answer. Right? Now, you nod your head in assent, right?
Yes.
But do you mean it, or just you're saying yes, yes, yes?
I mean it.
All right, when you listen to those sermons, write to me afterwards. Okay?
Yeah.
And if there are any areas which are not properly explained, which you do not understand, then write to me about them. Then I'll know that you kept your promise and you meant business. Okay? Jazakumullah. Who is this tiny thing? Has he reached the age of Atfal, or is underage as yet?
Assalamualaikum.
The age of Atfal begins with 7, doesn't it? But he doesn't seem to be 7 years old, is he?
I am.
Are you?
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
My name is Fahim.
My name is Fahim.
Fahim.
Son of?
Abid Nasir.
कहाँ है वो? Now your question, please. You're from Hanslow.
Yeah.
Right.
I have 3 questions.
3 questions.
Yeah.
1.
Number 1 is how does God look like? Can you see him in your dreams?
How does God look like? Can you see him in your dreams?
Well, how does God look like? Nobody knows. Because nobody can see God with his naked eyes.
How do you see him in your dream?
In the dream?
Yeah.
Differently. Some people see God in their dreams as a light, as a sudden glow of light. And sometimes people see them in the form of human beings. as holy people, but they are just apparitions, images. They are not the true picture of God at all. God is not made of any body. God is not made of any substance that we know of. God is not made of the material of which we are made, or the universe is made. So it's impossible for us to see God with our material eyes, okay, right? Only He is a power. He is behind everything which we see. But they are covers, they are not God. When you see the light of sun is not God, nor the light which is emitted by the sun is God. But the power behind the sun and behind the light is God. God is behind every creation. He has created you. So your wisdom, your form, the beautiful arrangement of your body and your functioning of your organs are not God, but they are made by God. So we can judge Him to be a most perfect being by the art He has created, by the things He has made. So that is why we can imagine Him through conclusions drawn from what He has created. But we can't see Him. Correct? The issue of dream is different. In dreams, your own internal psychic powers create illusions for you, images for you, and you may see God in the form of a human being, but it does not mean that this is the true form of God. Correct? Second question, please.
It's what was before the earth?
Come closer to the microphone, please.
What was before the earth?
Before the what?
The earth. What was before the earth?
Before the earth? Before the earth or before the universe or what? This earth.
Before the earth.
The earth began, or let us say, the earth came to be formed around 4.5 billion years ago. 4.5 billion years ago. Got the message?
Yeah.
What is a billion? All right, you tell us. He's raising his hand. What is a billion? What did he say? 1,000?
He said 1,000. That's right.
1,000 is a billion. 1,000 million. 1,000 million is a billion, right? And what is a million?
A million. 10 million.
10 hundred thousands, right?
Yeah.
So 100,000 multiplied by 10 makes a million. A million multiplied by 1,000 makes a billion. Multiplied by 4.5 makes the entire span in which the span of the existence of the earth up to now. Earth was created 4.5 billion years ago, correct? Created out of the substance which made the satellites of a system of the sun. The sun and its satellite system were created out of the substance which was formed in the form of, say, like cosmic dust. Now these are things which are far too minute for you to be able to understand. So before the earth, we can say there was some sort of existence in the universe which gradually settled down into different shapes, and stars were born out of that. and star systems are born out of that. And the satellite system of the sun was also born out of that. So that pre-existed the formation of Earth. Understood? I hope so. Next, third question, please.
Why does Saturn have a ring and the other planets don't?
मुझे तो कुछ नहीं पता चला.
Why does Saturn, the planet Saturn, have rings and the other planets do not have rings?
Have you read so much about the planets and things? Eh? Very clever. You tell us. If you already know so much, why don't you tell us instead? You see, why are the rings created? Do you know that? Rings are created by luminous moving objects, luminant moving objects around something. If they are moving at a very fast speed, then they make a sort of ring. If you tie a stone to a string and revolve it round, and if you do it very fast, suddenly instead of seeing a stone revolving, you will see a circle, continuous circle of something. So the rings are created by small illuminated or luminous particles or gases which keep on revolving round the planet. And if there are more tears, more masses at different distances from the planet, then more rings will be seen by you. They are not actual rings. They are luminous objects. Maybe it is just luminous dust, maybe it is just gases, but they are reflecting light, and from here, when we see at a long distance, we think they are just rings. Right? Why there and why not elsewhere is Allah's creation. Nobody can ask why. 3 questions over? Thank you. मैं क्या इनको कद ऊंचा करने की दवाई दें? ये बैठे हुए साथ पैराशेटी साहब हैं? दे रहे हैं? नहीं, अब इनको पहले वो दें ऊंची, जो गुंजने खोलने की दवाइयाँ हैं ना, उनमें मेडोराइनम भी है, एक सीएम में देनी पड़ती है, और एक सिफिलिनम. पहले एक ट्राई करें, उसके बाद दोबारा रूटीन नुस्खा. अगर फिर भी काम ना करे तो फिर दूसरी ट्राई करके फिर रूटीन नुस्खा. अक्सर मैंने देखा है गांठें पड़ी हुई खुदा के फल से खुल जाती हैं.
Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम.
My name is Slimuddin and I'm from Huddersfield. My question is, these days youngsters don't really care what religion they are, non-Ahmadis. And how can we attract them towards Ahmadiyyat and towards God?
You see, this question is gaining more importance with the passage of time to Ahmadiyyat, because more and more Ahmadis are becoming conscious of their responsibility to spread the message. It's a good sign. This question has been answered by me scores of times at length from different angles, and we have available all the material where I have directed Ahmadis how to go about the task of calling people to the path of Allah. This is Dawat il-Allah, right? But the one answer I should like to give here is by your model first. Personal example. If you create an excellent model of a young boy of your age, which people look up to with wonder, that you belong to the same irresponsible age where the boys are becoming more and more rowdy, undisciplined, they even murder their headmasters, they do not care for the honor of anybody else. Why this man, this boy is strange and so different from the rest of the society? These questions will be first asked quietly by the people, within themselves. And then they will become interested in listening to you. They would like to come closer and see you from close, and then they would start their inquiry as to who you are and why are you so. When they are in a fit frame of mind to listen to your preaching, that is the time to speak to them. So it is highly important to establish a good model of conduct, right? And if you have a close circle of friends whom you can freely invite to your home for a cup of tea or dinner or something, you can also entice them or make them interested in Ahmadiyyat by preparing a plan for showing them some video recordings of questions and answers or other similar things in which you feel that your friends could be interested. Just give them a taste and let them decide for themselves later on whether they would be interested in these things or not. Otherwise, with your limited knowledge of Ahmadiyyat, you may not be able to present Ahmadiyyat in an attractive enough form, in an attractive enough way to make them hooked on to Ahmadiyyat. You may fail in delivering the message efficiently. The result would be that they will stop taking interest anymore. So to catch them, to relate to them more, to you and your message more closely, these devices have to be adopted or taken recourse to. So first thing is model. Be careful as to how you present to your friends, and be careful that they receive the message that this boy is special, is really worthy of imitation. And second, invite them to your house in small batches and sit with them and show them the video just out of curiosity for them, you know. Come on, let me show you something very special. Maybe it is of interest to you. Those who will become interested, then they will come for others as well. And this happens everywhere in the world now. Right? Thank you. Oh, he is not a member of Qadam al-Ahmadiyya, Thal al-Ahmadiyya, I'm sure. Are you already 7? You are hardly 4.5. How old are you?
6.
6? MashaAllah. Another case of Barata Carp treatment. Right? Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Masafi.
Right.
Why does the world go round?
Why is the world Qadian?
Why does the world go round?
The world go round. Is that the question? If the world did not go round, what would happen? Do you know? Does anybody know? Yes. Pardon? Loudly.
No day and night.
Yes. What else? Yes, you tell me. I'm talking up to you. Yes. When I look at him, he'll start looking back. Yeah?
It would stay the same season all the time.
It will stay the same season.
That's right. Not only, it's not a question of season. It's a question of time of day. Will it be night or day? It will remain fixed. Part of the earth would always have a day. Part of the earth will always have night. And there will be no change of night into day and day into night. that part which will constantly remain in front of sun, it will become blazing hot. So hot that it would be impossible for you to live on that surface of the earth. And the other part will become extremely cold and also devoid of all vegetation, because without the light of sun, nothing can grow. So that part which is dark will be without vegetation because there will be no light. That part which remains always in front of the sun would also be without vegetation. It will turn into desert, vast desert, because of overmuch of sun. So if that had happened, there will be no little Hayat today standing before me and asking me this question. Because there will be no life on earth whatsoever. You understand? No. Do you?
Yes.
If there is always light on one part of the earth and always darkness on the other, then the life can neither flourish on this side nor on that side. On one side it will be overmuch heat. On the other side, overmuch cold and darkness. So between the two, the issue of life will be rolled up and destroyed. No life can exist. There will be no question answer session like we are holding today. What do you prefer personally now? Should the world go round or not? What is your final verdict? Answer.
It does.
Done?
It does.
Huh?
He says it does.
I didn't ask you whether it does or does not. I say, would you like the earth to continue to revolve round itself, go round and round, or would you like it to stop somewhere? All right, I know how to make you understand. If the earth stops revolving at the time of breakfast, you'll always have breakfast, nothing else. Would you like to have breakfast after breakfast after breakfast? Because it's a breakfast time only. Or would you like lunch time to come? Would you? Would you like the lunch time to come after breakfast or not? Huh?
Yes.
Tell me. Yes?
Yes.
So without moving the earth, lunch time cannot come. And if it stops at lunch time, you will be dying to have dinner time, but it will not come. It will be just the lunch time, all the time. So you'll get fed up of lunches. Say, oh God, I must have my dinner time as well. And the earth will start moving again. You can't stop it. Right? Thank you. छोटे छोटे बच्चों को सवाल कैसे कैसे आते हैं? Yes, please. I think it's time now. We better call it a day at last. Huh? The families will be waiting there. Huh?
Assalamualaikum Zul.
What we do, we'll say the prayer in Jama, and when we return, you better send a message that after the mulaqat, we'll have the Maghrib Isha prayer set together, and then there will be no further inconvenience caused to the people. Haji.
Assalamualaikum Zul.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Well, you know Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Yes.
is the chief of the prophets.
Yes.
What do you mean by the chief of the prophets?
Chief, in fact, I don't know who told you the word chief. No such word is used in the Holy Quran as chief, because the chief has many different connotations and meanings. What we mean by his being Sayyidul Mursaleen or Khatam al-Nabiyyin is that he is the best. Right? Have you become a tifl or not yet?
Pardon?
Have you already become a tifl? Are you 7 or below 7?
I'm 7 years old.
Pardon? 7 years old?
Yes.
MashaAllah. Another case. There's so many Brata Kaap children here, you know. Come on now.
If Allah Ta'ala made everything,
Beg
why
pardon?
did He... You know Allah Ta'ala made everything. Why did He make shaitan?
Shaitan.
Yeah.
Well, among other things, if He had not made shaitan, He should not have made human beings either. Because the difference between human beings and angels depends on their being a Satan or not being a Satan. If there was no Satan to misguide the mankind, then they will all follow the instruction of God like angels. Right or wrong?
Right.
Right. So when angels are already there who do this, why to create man at all? There has to be some difference between the angels and human beings. Human beings are given the option to be good or not to be good. If no option is provided to them for not being good, then they would be just angels, no human beings. There are two paths which you can follow possible at the head of a juncture of roads. Either you choose the right path or the left path. If there is no possibility of the left path, then your road is straight and you have no choice to make. But when there is a possibility of another path, only then the choice appears. So God created mankind for the purpose of judging, if given option, which one of His servants follow His teaching and which one of His servants does not. So to create the negative path, there had to be some force created, which is Satan. So daily you are confronted with these two forces of goodness and evil. Whenever you hear a call for prayer,
Yes.
a message is delivered to you that come, it's the prayer time. And another message is delivered to you, I feel sleepy and drowsy. I feel lazy. I'm enjoying watching a football match or a wrestling bout. So let the prayer time go away. I'm more interested in this. The second voice is that of the devil or Satan, right?
Right.
So if that voice was never raised, how would Allah try you? So for the trial, there has to be two options, two possibilities. Do you ever appear in examinations?
Pardon?
Have you ever taken an examination?
Well,
Have you ever appeared in any examination?
no.
No? You don't go to school?
Yeah.
Do go?
Yes.
And do they give you papers
Yes.
to examine you?
Well, no, not
Never.
really.
Why not? I don't know the system here, but in our
Well, they
country,
do, but
every year, every child who goes to school is examined at least once a year, where if he answers rightly, he passes. If he answers wrongly, he fails. But you understand the system, don't you? So God has created man to try him, to put him into different examinations. If he passes, he is granted a higher status and reward of his pleasure. If he does not pass, then he is accordingly punished for his failure. So for the system of failure, there has to be the Satan who would work on the negative side, who will tell you all the wrong things. And there has to be a system of angels who tell you the good things all the time. So the voices you hear from within you are either angelic or satanic. So without the creation of Satan, you will have no choices. You understand?
Yes.
Good, thank you. I think it's time now to leave because already we have overshot the prescribed period for 40 minutes? By 40 minutes, huh? Okay. So children, it's very interesting to sit with you. You ask very good, interesting questions. And generally it's my experience that to sit in question answer session with you is more productive than to sit in question answer with Ansar. With due apologies to the member of Malis Ansarullah. The boys have, the girls and boys have fresh minds and new questions grow and flourish on the fertile soil of their brains. So I enjoy sitting with you, but already we are short of time, so I take leave of you. Allah bless you. May you return home having gained so much from this class that you utilize this for the remaining of your year. Okay? Remember, the one thing you must remember, that during this class you should learn to say your 5 times prayer regularly with due attention to your wuzu, and all the concomitants will go with the prayer. So in 2 days' time, pay special attention to attach yourself to prayers. So when you return home, at least one thing which will remain with you throughout would be your habit of learning how to pray 5 times a day. That would be the greatest benefit you could draw from such a class. With that, I take leave of you. Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.